I'm joined by Mayur Hola. He is the head of brand at Swiggy. Welcome, Mayur. Welcome to Best Media Info podcast.
Hi, 𝐿.
Thank you for taking out time. It's a busy time of the year for you.
It's a crazy time of the year for us. Thank you for having me at this time.
Okay, so Mayur's journey has been really interesting. What I saw about him on LinkedIn and all the research that I did was that he started off as a video game designer, developer, I think designer.
Yes.
And then he went on to work for 19 years at agencies and then brand side. And now he's helping build in India's one of the most influential brand ecosystem at Swiggy. So Mayur, because your journey has been so interesting, I wanted to understand from you, ये सब shift हुआ कैसे? I mean, from video game designer to advertising, and now again you're still doing advertising and brand building, but from the brand side. But I wanted to understand from you कि कैसे रहा ये journey, and then do you miss your agency life?
Okay, so I'll talk about, I'll split this into two parts and take agency life after. I'll talk about how I was a English literature graduate. I'm not even like an MBA, to be honest, right? And it kind of tells you that if you plot your journey well, you can reach wherever you really want, right? Because I don't think there's any better learning ground than the business, as I call it. And when I refer to the business, I mean advertising. I'll come to that later. But yeah, I mean, I'm an honors graduate. At the same time, I felt like I should know other things, and I was fascinated by everything that was happening with games, computers, graphics, etc. And while I finished college, I also learned this, right? So at the same time as I passed out of college, I also finished this course. And I actually started teaching over there for a while because I wanted to keep learning. And they were like, okay, we don't really know what to teach you now. So do you want to work and teach other students, and then maybe you can keep developing your skills side by side? And so that's what happened. I'm not sure if many students learned much from me, but I do know that at one point my wife, not my wife then, a girl walked in who I met there and I later married. So I guess it did, something really good for me. And from there, I basically decided that, I'd spent a little time there, got picked up by a game development firm. American walked in one day and said, hey, I'm looking for people who can develop games and do graphics. So my work, and there I was, complete serendipity. But I suppose it had something to do with the fact that I kind of over-invested my time in that place. While I'd learned, I think I took the time to hone myself further. And because I did that, I guess this guy reached in and plucked out one or two of the best people over there, right? We did that for 3.5 odd years, after which I decided I would carry on doing, it was fun, but it was very early days. You must remember, it betrays my age to say it, but it was before the year 2000. And, to get a game out from this country at that time would take a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah.
We can do all the graphics you want, but coding, etc., was not probably at the level it needed to be then. So I decided, again, impatience of youth, I decided I'd had enough of waiting. And I decided to follow the path that I'd set out for myself, which is I wanted to get into advertising, which is why I'd got into literature to begin with. And I walked in, met to McCann, right? Saw a very, very good-looking crowd. And I was like, yes, that's a great call you made. Met Ash. Yeah, I've never seen an agency as well staffed as McCann was.
This was McCann Delhi.
McCann Delhi. Met Ashish Chakravarti for the first time. Ashish actually took the time to open a one show, which is an advertising annual with great ads, and said, this is what advertising is. So maybe why don't you make some ads and come back, because you haven't done this. You haven't learned this. You have no education of it. And that's exactly what I did. I actually did make a book, as it were, of my work. And I came back, and in due course of time, I got into McCann, right? So at the turn of the century, pretty much, there I was. And as you said, I spent the next 19 years learning from the business, right? And I think, like I said, there is no better learning ground than the business, because it teaches you, the business of marketing and brands, the business of brands, right? Because again, at the time and even before that time, agencies were supposed to be partners, right?
Yeah.
They were supposed to not just do the communication for brands. This was a time when media was integrated. Right? So when I entered McCann was like one long railway station in their old Balaji estate office in 𝐶𝐞𝐧 in Delhi. And it literally was like a railway platform where you entered, and the first half was, it was accounts and then media, and then you walked on to the creative floor, the admin, and the even the digital agency floor were above, and it carried on and on endlessly till you reached Kumar's canteen and his namkeen French toast. So yeah, it kind of, so all of this really just meant that you learned all aspects of business and you were true partners to the brands you worked on, right? They would come to you for problem solving beyond just, hey, let's put some communication out. They would come to you to solve business problems. And I think that's how a lot of us learned. There were people like Santosh Desai who headed strategy for McCann at the time. For anyone who knows Santosh or wants to look him up, he's one of the doyens of strategic thinking and just reading culture in this country beyond just communication, but just reading people. Till date, he writes an article every week, and reading it every week is still so enriching because you learn so much more about your country every single week that you didn't know about or thought about, how you think, how you live, etc., etc. All of that is stuff that we gained from and learned from. We were kids, right? I got to work with, as I said, Ashish, Prasun Joshi. Freddie Birdie came in for a time, and I worked with him. He and I grew to be friends. I also learned how to recognize good food and wine, etc., from Freddie, which is great, right? So not complaining. In general, I feel as such that I think our professional upbringing was I was lucky. I had all of these influences, and as such, yeah, I mean, I guess I missed that because that was quite brilliant to have. But I don't necessarily perhaps miss it now because I guess I get to apply everything I learned and everything I thereafter learned in brands and do perhaps stuff that's maybe a lot more enriching for me now.
So your entrance into the world of advertising was a book that you made that Ashish asked you to give as a test, right?
A book refers to your body of work. People also call it the portfolio. But a book really just means a body of your work that you put together.
Okay.
I did write a book though, but that's another question.
I would want to know more about that.
Through the years as I did advertising, at one point you meet different people. That's another thing you get. As I said, with the business, you meet some very learned people, you meet some very talented people. And I met this girl one time who just came to meet me, and very young art director called Manisha Gautam, and she had an idea for a children's book. And really, her idea was just, I think, 7 bookmarks, if I'm not wrong, at the time. And it was just about a boat and a kid on it, right, who was on the seas because the sea level was rising, right, and the world was just becoming all sea, so to speak. And I told her, this is brilliant because it sparked an idea in my mind. And I said, let's make a book out of this. And I hired her in TVW at the time. I said, your time will be devoted to doing this. You can also do other work, of course. You've hired for that. But we will spend a large amount of time in developing a book. And we put out a book called My Boat, which was then taken up by an NGO funded by, one of its fundings was from the United Nations, UNESCO. And the book then actually got taken to a UNESCO forum, etc., and released over there. So, yeah.
Wow.
It was just one of those phases, and it happens often in the life of people in the business, I think, where you want to do other things and you're surrounded by just such talent that you're actually able to do it if you want that and want to put the time.
Okay, have you ever thought that whatever you've achieved so far, is it all hard work, intelligence, your talent, or it's also you were at the right place at the right time, you were lucky?
I think most definitely right place, right time, right? But to be honest, equally a lot of us are at the right place and at the right time Sometimes we realize it, sometimes we don't. And I'm not necessarily sure all of us are either prepared for it or recognize it. And I think in my case, all of the better stuff that's happened to me is perhaps because I've been almost taught to recognize moments which can be made more of, right? I've been taught to recognize, as I said, when I see a person walk in and a young person, my instinct would just be to see if they're talented, if they're great for the role that we might have, right? Perhaps at some point in my journey, someone taught me to look beyond that. And while her core skill was okay, I'm not necessarily sure she's the most brilliant art person I've ever seen. But that little spark that I saw is something that the business does teach you to recognize. And if you're open for it and you're looking for it at all times, and I think all the better people in the business are, to be honest. It's not me alone. Then you're able to get in on it and say, hey, you know what, we can make more of this, whether this project, this person, this task, this problem, whatever it might be. I had great influences as well on me who taught me how to do that. That's a really long chat, but I think I was lucky to have those influences. I think if I'm lucky, it's mostly because of the quality of people I got to interact with and what they were willing to teach me. And I guess I was willing to learn, so all of it came together.
Okay. So in whatever you said so far, I realized that you've learned a lot from your seniors, from your peers,
Sure.
all across your journey, career. Times have become so dynamic. We've got so much to do. Do you think people who are senior now and have seen success spend enough time with their juniors these days to teach them, to tell them what is right, what is wrong, how to go about things?
I don't have the same insight into what happens in various agencies, I must admit. But I think the better people still do that because, as I said, there's a whole bunch of us, and I'm sure even today, the best people get the best guidance. Right? And of course, they're willing to take that guidance and make more of themselves with it. Because without that, no amount of guidance is going to get you anywhere. But I do think that if you see, there are some great people around and there is some great work coming out from time to time. It cannot happen without it being passed on from one to another, right? Like I said, I don't have like a front row seat of what goes on within whether a marketing organization or an agency or whatever else. But yeah, I think it would be happening. I'm not sure if it's happening as much as it happened perhaps with me. And maybe that's why I consider myself a bit luckier. And as I said, maybe I was also very keen on learning from whoever came my way, which includes my wife, by the way, who taught me a whole bunch as well.
Nice. Because you've spent so many years in advertising, what do you think about it? What's the state of it? Because now you're not in the ad agency business, you are on the brand side. When I meet a few senior people who are probably retired or left the ecosystem, they end up saying glad they're not part of it anymore. Thank God they left at the right time. What do you think of it?
A great agency, a great team, right? And agencies often have very good teams. They attract this talent of people or talent pool of people who want to be part of communications and marketing, etc. I think it still remains one of the most valued partners for a brand and a business, right? You can argue that, hey, you know what? Businesses have consultancies, etc., who guide them and help them make some very fundamental decisions, right? They do. They have a different role, which they charge a lot for, of course, which is great. I think a good agency which values itself and values the work it does, prices itself right, and in that price offers you extremely great value, right? You only have to look at the best brands all around you, and you realize that they capitalize on their agency partners and they partner with them. More importantly, the word partner is important, to put out some brilliant work. A Mondelez would not be what it is without an Ogilvy, right? The work Flipkart does, for example, alongside its agency partners, etc. I think we can go brand by brand, all the huge brands in this country and even outside of this country, right? The majority of them would have great agency relationships, and it would be an extremely symbiotic relationship. Nike would not be what Nike is without Wieden. Apple would not be what Apple is without TBWA.
But I think these are exceptional brands that you're taking
Sure.
name of. I mean, I don't while it's okay to say, it's nice to hear that agencies and brands are partners.
Yeah.
But does it really happen that way in real life? I mean, they are mostly agencies are considered as vendors.
They're considered as vendors by many, yes, perhaps because at one point the whole business got devalued with media going its own way,
Yeah.
creative being considered confetti by some. But my answer is to who benefits from it, and the great brands are great brands because they use great agencies well. Is what I'm trying to say.
Who are your agency partners?
We don't have agency partners.
At all?
We have agencies who help us do social.
Mm-hmm.
So 𝐻𝐶, for example, and does social for Food Marketplace, which is food delivery. Let's Go does social for Instamart. 𝐻𝐞𝐧 also helps us with that. Shikha helps us with Instamart as well. But that's all for social mainly, apart from some things that we do when we don't have a lot of bandwidth. But outside of that, all of our work is done in-house. We do go out for a couple of projects in the year to our good friends in Moonshot, because I think they're even crazier than we are, and also because they're just good friends.
Okay, so in this business, friendship and relationship does count a lot.
I think friendship happened on the back of the work I did with the boys.
Okay.
They do great work. We like what they do. As I said, they're probably crazier and get the job done, perhaps even better than us sometimes.
So Mayur, your answer is incomplete, because so far you've told me that what an ideal brand agency relationship should be. But how do you see the business of ad agencies these days? I mean, because challenges बहुत हैं, कमी नहीं है अभी, पहले से ज़्यादा challenges हैं.
Yeah, look, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about the business of agencies, and I also
बाहर से देख के क्या लगता है? And you've got friends here.
I do. I have friends here, which is why I'm careful with the words I choose about my friends. And everyone has a battle that they're fighting. I think it's hard. I think there are lots of choices. So if I look around as someone who manages a brand and works alongside various people when I need to, I know that I can reach out to an individual, or I can reach out to a large agency, and everything in between. I can just almost the multiplicity of choices I have, and also the cost at which I have these options is just, it's mind-bending, honestly, right? And within this, of course, people who want to exploit this situation will exploit this situation, which includes many, many, many brands, right? They'll do a project here, they'll flirt with someone else there with the work they're getting done. They'll have multiple people coming and pitching ideas to them. All of that has always happened, to be honest. It's just now it's crazier than ever before, simply because you have so many options that you can reach out to.
And also brand like yours are doing a lot of creative in-house.
That's a wholly different way to work. It's a decision by this organization to invest itself with a certain amount of talent and a certain level of talent, and say, you know what, our needs are such that if we went out to an agency for this, to be honest, it would probably cost us more time, money, and everything else. And we would also be at all times trying to help our partner understand a very dynamic and evolving business. This is a business that changes almost from quarter to quarter. Like when we listed, we also signed up for the reality of QS/QT, which is quarter se quarter tak, right? So that is the reality of a very, very dynamic, fast churn consumer tech business. So they've done what is right for them. Could they have worked with an agency partner? Have they worked with agency partners in the world in the past and done really well? Yes, of course. Talented has done some great work, or the people from Talented who were at Dentsu Web Chutney earlier. Right? They've done some great work for them. Low has done some great work for them with Gulab Jamun Uncle in the past, etc., etc. Over time, they built a team because they realized they're operating in a different era. Right? They have so many business that, in general, we are very experimentative. Right? Remember, this is the same organization or business or minds that built quick commerce. They started food delivery first. All of these had to have been punts, which ultimately paid off, right? And then now you have a multiplicity of players and competitors in the same arena. At the same time, there might be 3 other things that we're trying that we might be doing quietly. Each of them needs work, right? Imagine doing all of this and trying to do it with an agency partner or multiple ones. It would be madness. It would also be very costly, to be honest. So I think each business does what is best for them, right? I just think that if you do right by the people you're working with and the tasks that you have, as I said, the best brands are the best because of decisions they are taking and partnerships they're forming, whether internal or external, in order to do the best they possibly can. And the worst brands or people, etc., are simply that because they're exploiting the current situation, and then they can go down whichever way: projects, lowering costs, etc., etc. Dancing all over the place with various partners, taking ideas from pitches and so on. That we can go on about the bad examples. I just prefer to focus on the great ones because I think that just keeps us all positive and focused in the right direction.
Okay.
I do understand it. I just choose to focus on something else.
So, I mean, you belong to an era, a generation of the people who have made very big ideas, and we still talk about those ad campaigns. In this newer generation next to you, can you name a few people, if you wish to, that you think that the advertising business is in good hands with them?
Are we talking only India or across the world?
If you want to mention about somebody out of India, you may, but I wanted to ask you about somebody in India.
Understand. Look, I think there are a few who continue to fight the good fight, as I call it, right? Some of them are friends, some of them I look at from afar. I think Rahul Matthew at DDB is always trying to do the right thing, him and his team. When I say one person, no one is working alone. They have an excellent team across their various offices and their various agencies, right? So I think those guys they're always there, thereabouts. I think Rajdeepak Das at Leomanet has a certain method which he applies sometimes to mainline work, sometimes to very experimentative work. It's an interesting way to approach things. It's fun. It's good, right? Ogilvy is always doing the right things. So people like Kenaz over there, Harshad, Sukesh, right? All the usual suspects will keep popping up if you think about it. I think the WOM does some interesting work from time to time.
Yeah.
Sometimes sometimes they hit it out of the park, sometimes not, but I admire them for trying at all times. Right. So I think these
and enormous, I think.
𝐁𝐬 there's no one like 𝐁𝐬. Like I say, 𝐁𝐬 jaisa koi nahi. Literally, there is no one like 𝐁𝐬. PG Aditya, Gautam and their team are talented, are really quite talented. No one spins a case, no one presents their work quite as beautifully as talented.
I really like the way they use media, different media.
They're brilliant. They're brilliant at pretty much everything, and they're most brilliant at presenting their ideas. And that's a rare trait, by the way. You can create great campaigns, but you have to market the marketing ultimately also. Because it's a business that struggles with attribution and what it can do, how it is effective, how it's beautiful, and they present the marketing beautifully before it is created and after it's created, and both are equally important. So I rate them very highly, and they know that as well. There are individuals like Shikha who I really like. As I mentioned, Shikha used to head the brand for Swiggy way back. The first thing I did was, and I always admired her from afar, the first thing I did was just go and get Shikha to work with us. I was like, I don't care. It doesn't matter if you have less time, you can do a small project, but please work with us, because I really admire you. Love Ramsam. Right? So I like a lot of people. I can go on about it. I love Pratik Bhardwaj's work. Right, he's insanely talented. I think he's always been. I know him from like way back in 2000.
You're taking almost everybody's name.
I like Chakravarti because I've worked with them and I've learned from them, honestly. And they know I've worked with them and learned from them. So there's a whole bunch of people you work with. 19 years is a long time, right? There's also a lot of people I'm leaving out, to be honest, in that time, right? 𝐤𝐧 𝐙 is brilliant again, in a very effortless way. He would, just sails through life and just throws out brilliance from time to time. So there are many,
you
many
also
people.
noticing any rising star?
Maybe I'm not as close to the business anymore, to be very honest with you. I'm sure there are, but I see work and I recognize good work, but I don't always know the people behind it. I do think that in recent times, the work done for Spotify by, I'm not sure if I know her name, but I think she used to be at Leomanet and now works with Ramsam.
Okay. So while I was just thinking what to ask because I wanted this podcast to be different from the previous interviews that you've given. I did come across this thing on your LinkedIn. You've written in your bio, kind of, I don't know exact word that people use on LinkedIn, but you've introduced yourself as if, I'm not going to tell you exactly what you wrote, but what I remember is that you learn every day and you try to pass on that learning to people. Yeah. So I wanted to understand that, how do you do it? Do you do mentorship programs, open playbook? Do you write on LinkedIn? Do you come at forums like these? How do you do it?
I'm horrible at LinkedIn. I barely post. Maybe I post once in a few months. I think it's become a bit of an echo chamber. Still probably the only professional platform. But yeah, I'm not very good at that, to be honest, although I'm present over there. I keep a track of things in general across platforms, because our brand also exists across platforms, so I stay abreast of it. But I think, yeah, sure, there's the odd time when I'm invited somewhere, and I always ask people if they're sure about inviting me, because I have a certain way of conducting myself, which may not be very formal, right? And I don't know if that's great for education, but I go ahead and just follow the way, do it the way I do. And I do go for forums like that, but I think I try, and the way I work with the people I work with, right? I always try and have a chat about why we're doing what we're doing, right? And there's always some core, I don't want to call them tenets, but there's just some things that there's a sword we live on and we're going to die on. And I make sure that no matter how small an exercise or how big an exercise, we follow the same principles. As an example, I got a text today saying, hey, we're doing something, it's only really needed to go. It's a small thing, it's only going in a couple of markets. Is this okay? And I was like, okay is never okay. We work on brands that are, as you said, are thought leaders. They define culture rather than follow culture, etc., etc. We're lucky to be working, on these brands and curating them and creating for them today. I don't think we can afford to be okay, right? There's way more detail about what we want to be, who we want to be, what we want to do, right? But मतलब चलेगा नहीं types, right? वो तो नहीं होगा, right? कुछ भी हो जाए, छोटा बड़ा जो भी है, doesn't matter, right? And there's also very, very good reasons for what we'll do. If you probe any activity, any project, we won't go and talk about it, because people don't read your reasons, people don't read your case studies or thought process or strategic thinking, etc., etc. People see your madness and either they like it, they remember it, retain it, think about your brand at the time they need to, at the right time, or they don't. Baki sab hawa hai. But there's a lot of hawa that is internal, and we do make sure that every single time we do something, we chat about that, and we teach each other through that. That's how I was taught, right? And that's how I try and do it, right? It might sound extremely informal, but hopefully it rubs off. And hopefully the work reflects it, because nothing else is important.
So the people who work with you only get to learn from you then?
As I said, there are forums that I get invited to who are stupid enough to invite me. Hopefully they also learn from it. I do a few of them in the year.
You also mentioned you do it your way. What is your way?
I think just like we're talking right now, I came with, I must be honest, I didn't come with any prep, because I feel like if I over prep,
that is the only way to go. Otherwise, interviews become plotted.
Yeah, I won't be honest. I'll be rehearsed. I'll probably want to read something before I talk to you. I won't let my instinct answer. But my instinct is guided as we went through the journey by years and years of doing this, right? So it's not like I've not learned, but I don't want to be learned for the sake of being learned. I'd rather just talk to you, and hopefully I say something which makes sense and it helps you in some way. Otherwise, again, as I said, it'll be quite stilted, and who wants that?
Okay, Mayur, now I want to know a story from you.
Okay.
Has there been one very difficult creative decision that you've taken in your career?
So many. If you're specific about the nature of decision, I can answer you.
I want to listen to a story here.
I don't know. There've been too many difficult decisions, to be honest. Maybe again, I just like to look at stuff that maybe is more enjoyable. I remember shooting for Pan Vilas,
Hmm.
right? I go back to that campaign often because it's in a category which is really, really hard to work on. Let's be honest,
Hmm.
pan masala sold in the guise of silver pearls or elaichi or whatever.
And you can't sell it without a celeb.
No, you can't, and it's got the same old codes that the category follows. There'll be a nice mansion. Maybe it's going to be outside of the country. There'll be horses. There'll be a car, possibly a classic car. So and so on and so forth. How could you do all of that and yet be interesting? And we had a client, I remember in Godfrey Phillips, if I'm not wrong, called Nita, who used to be ex-Ogilvy, and I was at the time in Ogilvy. I think the team went back to her time and time and time again, and she just wouldn't like anything, right? And ultimately, her big feedback to us was like, "Kuch Ogilvy type karo na," right? And that's when it was hard. It was difficult to do, but that's when we just I think it was one weekend where we met 𝐤𝐳 𝐙. Ajay Gelot would often just chat about work while he took a walk in the park, quite literally. So on one weekend, we went to his house, near his house, and we took a walk in the park, sat at his home. And I remember working with Riyazat Bhai, who's a director now, and Riyazat Bhai wrote a line called 𝐸𝐶 बड़ी चीज़ है. And so if you ask me often about one of the things I look back at a lot, it's 𝐸𝐶 बड़ी चीज़ है, because you know what, we can use it in conversation. And people often just normally use it now. Right? But he's a guy who just wrote it casually. Right? And then we did the story of a Nawab who had seen better days, as Nawabs have. एक टाइम रहा होगा उनका, राइट? पर शौक नहीं गए उनके, शौकीन वो अभी भी है, राइट? तो अगर वो चिड़ियाएं देखते हैं तो वो भी दूरबीन से देखते हैं, वो भी जर्मन होनी चाहिए, राइट? उनको अगर अखबार भी पढ़ते हैं तो वो इस्त्री करके आता है उनके सामने, राइट? वो शायद अभी इतने ज़्यादा रईस ना हो जितने एक टाइम पे रहे होंगे, but he still has all the trappings of the past, of the era before, right? And Manoj Bajpayee did it, right? Is brilliant, right? It's one of those jobs or projects that I remember Kinu, who was heading creative for Ogilvy at the time, reached out to me and said he was blown away by it, etc., etc. And that's for Ogilvy, that counts for more almost. Internal praise almost counts for more than external praise, to be honest, right? If Piyush says something, if Kinu says something, and I remember we won an internal award for it. It probably counted for a lot more than anything else, right? So yeah, really difficult project. But I remember being at Pataudi Palace and Vinil shot it. Vinil is brilliant again. There's just so much to learn from Vinil. And he's just shooting a film in which there was a doodhwala coming, and Nawab was supposed to give a cycle to the doodhwala because he said he should have a cycle to come in. Right? And he says, we need something here, just anything to end this film. Right? One, kuch likhna to. It's really hard, you're sitting at a set, spur of the moment, the director is asking you kuch likh because you record karna and it's live sync, you can't do it later. And that somehow, something sparked and we wrote, I think I told him, let's say, cycle दूध वाले को दे दो, गाय से चाय तक का रास्ता कम हो जाएगा. And we shot it, and it went into the film. Right? So yeah, they're difficult at various levels, they're challenging at various levels. But yeah, I still remember every little bit of it, and hugely entertaining and enriching.
These are such stories which you listen and you feel so happy listening to it. Oh wow, it must be such a fun job that you're into.
The output can make it feel like that, but I guess the input processes can be pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mayur, what's your umbrella view about the consumers' content consumption habit, media habits, and how does it change the way you build brand?
I think it's a really good question. One of the things we do a lot in Swiggy, and it flows down from Harsha, who I report to, who's our founder, right? Harsha insists on going and speaking to people for all of us, including himself. There's a cadence we follow, and we go to people's homes. We don't just do research meetings in sanitized environments. घर में जाते हैं लोगों के. We know the questions we need to ask, but we don't over-rehearse them. We don't follow a document, but in general, of course, we've guided. but we keep it impromptu. We spend a good amount of time. It could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. Right? And we just kind of just observe people, see how they react, what they react to, etc., etc. Right? And just look around the house. Even just you get to know a lot by meeting people at their homes and having like a casual chat. And one of the things we observe over and over again is people don't remember ads. You've spent a lot of money making ads. You've spent a lot of money on media thereafter.
And that's sad.
They don't remember one ad. Not one.
So is it an advertising's problem, or it is just the way things have become now?
It's the answer to your question, which is, what do you think about media? People's consumption habits. And when you see consumption, it's about everything. Consumption isn't just about what you eat or buy or whatever. It's what you consume on screen. Everything is consumption. We're living in the consumption era, right? And we have been for a while. At the flick of a finger, you can get something you want to watch, or you can dismiss something you don't want to watch. You can buy something that you want, or you can cancel an order you've placed, right? Everything is at the flick of a finger, right? And that sort of makes you, at one level, very dismissive, because it's powerful, right? It's a really powerful. The device is not powerful. The wave of the finger is really, really powerful if you think about it, right?
Algorithms are also very powerful.
That's a different discussion. So we'll talk about that as well, right? The algo has basically now learnt the wave of your finger and what it likes and what it doesn't like, and it'll feed it to you. So you might think you're very powerful and you're gaming the platform. You never game the platform, right? The table always wins as the. I
sometimes feel that algo also tell us what to consume in form of content.
Yeah, the house wins always.
So it's not that we decide what I want to consume,
correct,
but it's just the algorithms which just pushes content that they want to.
So they've seen you share, they've seen you engage, they've seen the amount of time. The algo has seen all of that. It's quietly reading everything you do, right? Whether it's on a shopping site, it's not just about the content you consume, it's also about the stuff you buy. Everything is now guided by what you've done in the past. Right? So it becomes very hard for anyone or anything or brand, business, whatever, to do new things. Right? Because everyone is conditioned is doing to the same thing, because all platforms, whether media or otherwise, want to convert you. Conversion is important, right?
Yeah.
And conversion is easiest done with stuff you've already done in the past. And so if you really think about it, it's like this vicious cycle of the same thing looping over and over again. Right? So in amongst that, a brand has to come and somehow break through this whole numbness of and repetitiveness of consumption, right? So either you're a shooting star who just creates something so brilliant that you'll cut through it all. So it lays so much more emphasis on being brilliant, which goes back to our point about what are your tenets, how do you think, and so on. Can't just be okay, right? Or you just have to be cut through for another reason, or the product you're designing, or the project or the service you're offering has to be just so meaningful in someone's life and people's life that they stop and look at it and they consider it, right? So at every level, right, everyone speaks about brilliant basics, and you do have to carry on doing brilliant basics. You can't not do them as well. So the number of things you do to get through to a person is just multiplying. It always has, to be honest. It's just even more so today. And it has to cut through this whole wave of the finger, as I call it. Right? So as such, the way we think of content, etc. is, or whatever we do or how to solve a problem is guided by all of these things. Right? And when you see the stuff we do as such, right? Whether it's a meme-verse that has all of the cringe creators in the country in one place, right? Or indeed, if you see Chawal Chavla or For Smart, right? Or whatever else you do. Now you start thinking about why these guys are doing what they're doing, while they're also trying to be very consistent with the brand, so that it's not like seeming like it's one, a brand that has split personalities. But equally, they are trying to get through to a consumer who's just got the power of dismissing them.
Even if you make a brilliant ad, there would be some noise here and there, and people will again forget it about after a week. And we won't even talk about it. We still talk about the ads which were made 20 years ago, but we will not talk about an ad that was very popular last week.
We'll probably talk about any ad made 20 years ago, even if it wasn't very good, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right? Simply because at the time there was not much else around it. There was only so many. Right? So I think residual memory is powerful for fashion, for music, for cinema, for advertising, you name it. For the food you got at your mum's or nani's or dadi's place, just because there was just lesser of it. Right? I think that's just how we are as people. That's the human condition. Right? Again, I think maybe today it's more important if something gets shared. Right? It doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
Right?
And also shared on personal WhatsApp groups.
Shared in whichever way. And again, I try and cut through just content conversation, because otherwise it just becomes about, अरे तुमने कुछ ऐसा बनाया जो shareable था क्या? Right? मेरे हिसाब से तुमने कुछ ऐसा बनाया product wise भी क्या कि वो shareable था कि नहीं, is probably even more important. So as a brand, for example, in the case of Instamart, where we create our own private brand called Noise, it has to be nice enough for it to be shareable by you, because the product is so good, not just because the advertising for it is so good or the design of it is so good, etc., etc. Everything about it has to be great.
I think Noise has just recently come up with an ad with Tanmay Bhatt, and that it's no.
That's a piece of content that lives on social media and has its own life. There'll be other things that Noise will be doing, and they'll all, as I said, trying to be very nice. But I think most important for Noise, in the case of Noise, will be the product.
Yeah.
And if you really like it, you'll talk about it. And that is gold dust. The same for a service.
Product has to be the hero, only then probably somebody will watch your ad and remember it.
In this case, it can be the hero. In a case where you're operating in a category where your service or your offering is very me too, it's at par with whatever else anyone else is offering, then there's something else that has to stand out. Perhaps how you talk about it has to stand out. My point being, you have to stand out and be worth speaking about. And today that's almost also become an essential part of a brand or a product's journey, while continue to stick with the basics of, hey, show its attributes, target the right people over and over again, rinse, repeat. वो भी चलेगा, ये भी चलेगा, ये सब साथ में
Is there a
चलेगा.
formula to stand out?
There can be. I mean, there can be. It's not like it's without formula. There's no formula to virality. So everyone who comes and say viral bana do, they should just turn around and go right back where they came from. But there's a formula.
I take the word viral with a pinch of salt these days.
May as well bury it in a sack of salt. But no, sure, no. Everything has a method. It may not always be that the same method will work at all times, because everything that we're consuming after a while is tired. So if you're repeating something, it may not necessarily succeed, to be honest. Right? But I think if you're in this business of catching attention, then you really have to be watching how people are and how culturally people are responding to stimulus, and not just what communication is or ads are. And then it's a really small world and it'll just become very insular. वही खिचड़ी बार बार खाते रहोगे. I had a client one time. He's an icon. He used to be at Dabur. His name was DG, Devinder Garg ji.
Okay.
And वो कहते थे, यार आप वही उसी ad की लॉलीपॉप मुझे बार बार चुसवाते रहे. तो अब आप वो कर नहीं सकते. एक टाइम था जब आप वो बहुत देर तक कर सकते थे. एक कैंपेन बहुत देर तक चल सकती थी. उस पर आप बहुत सारा पैसा लगा दो और बहुत सारे लोगों को बार बार दिखा दो, तो हमारा बैठ के वॉशिंग पाउडर निरमा बोल लेते थे. अब वो डिसमिस हो जाएगा. वो साथ में चलेगा, as I said. It's not like it is not needed up to a point, but I think everything is needed right now. You can't just do one thing.
So probably now that I'm asking you this question, that we remember earlier times ads, but we don't really remember these times ads. Probably next generation जो होगी वो ये बात पूछेगी भी नहीं कि we used to talk about these ads, now we don't talk about these ads, because वो बात ही नहीं होएगी अभी किसी भी ad के बारे में.
Yeah, but today's generation would also be talking about brands and what they've done or the movements they've created. I don't think that, you might start perceiving things differently or reacting to things differently. You might think that, hey, people are not talking about ads, but that doesn't mean people are not talking about brands. Right? People are like, there's a whole generation that's talking about roads and the skincare and the cosmetics it's making. Right? There's a whole generation that might be talking about Ryanair and the fact that it's a budget airline with a chip on its shoulder and a tone of voice which is really snarky. So what if it's not ads? It's still a brand being spoken of. People like me look at Liquid Death and say, gosh, I did that. I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd done that, right? So brands still get spoken of. Ads don't necessarily have to get spoken of. We can just have like overemphasis on that, which is why you notice I don't even talk about ads so much. I just talk about movements. I talk about people, behavior, what triggers we can work with. उसके बाद अगर कोई ad याद आ गया तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, but it's more important कि brand याद आ जाए.
So कुछ legendary लोगों को मैंने अपने छोटे से career में interview किया है, which includes Bobby Pawar, Piyush Pandey. So they do say that we don't think about big ideas anymore. It's always on content. So what do you have to say about it? Because you're saying it's not necessarily has to be an ad, but their context was advertising only. कि अब हम ऐसे ads नहीं बनाते, अभी सब always on content रहता है.
I think all of the names you took and more, all of these people are right at one level, absolutely right. Where I come from and the way we look at it, a brand does have to be always on, and there are various things that a brand needs to do to be always on. Running a performance ad, running something or creating something for an occasion, doing something for as people call it, movement marketing, or anticipating something that's coming, the weather, the rain, right? Whatever it might be. Everything has to work together today for a brand to be recognized and remembered. Because as I said, just an ad on its own may or may not be remembered simply because of the multiplicity of content around you and so on. You think you can do strategically the right thing, which you must, by the way, right? And just run an ad over and over again, and that by itself will work. Perhaps it will work up to a point. Will it create a memorable brand that has aura today? Perhaps not. I think the brands we look at and say, hey, these are thought leaders, these are great brands, etc., etc. They're doing all of the things that you need to today to make society, culture, people, pop culture, etc. Look at you, be part of it, etc. Right? You can't think that Adidas is just making shoes and making great ads which inspire. Right? Their collaborations with creators, their collaboration with people and fashion brands, etc. to make shoes is equally a brand creation task. And not just a product creation task.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Rhodes with everything that it does and say, hey, I'll make a phone cover in which you can put a lip balm. Right? Is it brand? Is it product? Is it just social media? Is it collaboration with Hailey Bieber? It's everything, right? Or Skims and the way they market themselves, the Kardashians, how Kim does it, right? Or
India में The Boom ने कारवा बनाया था.
Look at what Underneath is doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Brand called Naked Coffee in Bombay, again creator-led. There's product, there's design. There are people who are recognized, right? And it's at crossroads of all of these that a brand seems to be made and recognized. 𝐲𝐶𝐽 and the work it does, great product, great design, great language that it speaks in general, a new language, embracing India. It's Devanagari, Urdu, all of those, making it part of your identity, right? Making provenance part of your identity. This coffee comes from India, it comes from this estate. These are the people who made it, telling stories. If we think about it and take it apart, these are all the things that brands have done. It's just that today they're being deployed in a different way, in a way that is more today, in a way that is just more in step with people and their consumption habits.
It's more content driven rather than advertising driven.
I think it's more life driven. This is how we are. We don't want that one मीठी गोली पैकेज करके आपने दे दिया, अच्छा ये लो, अब आपकी टॉफी ले लो, ये आपका ऐड है, अब इसको चूसते रहना बैठ के. वो भी बनेगा, वो भी चलेगा, बट साथ में एक मोमेंट भी बनेगी विच यू माइट रिमेंबर, राइट? साथ में there may be an activation that you will come across and saying, yeah, this is really cool. There might be some packaging that you saw and you took a picture of and said, this is such nice packaging. The actual product might have something in it that is worth talking about, right? There's a whole flotilla almost like a career battle group, right? There's an aircraft carrier, there's destroyers, there are frigates. Everything goes together and it works together. It always has been this way. Today, it's just deployed differently and becomes part of your life just because it uses different mediums. The principle remains the same. So, what all of the legends are saying is absolutely right. And those who are getting it right are actually deploying very traditional principles but in very contemporary ways.
Interesting. So I've been waiting to ask you this question because when you agreed to do this podcast with us, this was the first question that came to my mind. कि आप इतना content बनाते कैसे हैं? How do you do it? What kind of team is deployed to do it? If there's something that has to go quick, who decides कि ये अभी जाना है, ये अभी, who has a say on it? How do you do it? What are the guardrails?
We try and, like I said, I'll start with the last one. The whole guardrails concept is it's almost like it's a word that we don't like to use too much. I think it's more everyone should know who we are and vibe with it, right? I know it's a very Gen Z word, vibe, but you should feel the brand and you should understand it, and then you're set free, right? A lot of the stuff on social, it's almost like I'm like, I don't understand it, but I vibe with it and I feel it. You guys know how to deploy it, what to do, what will do better. Please go ahead and do it. If it's significant, please show me. I'd love to know, simply because I'm interested in learning. I'm not going to be a gatekeeper for you, right? And if you get it wrong, it's fine. We'll get it right the next time, right? So that's one medium. Equally, then there are these huge campaigns, etc., or there are small ones, and you have
एक moment नहीं छोड़ता है Swiggy, but every moment they have a take.
Yeah, but that's just the nature of the business, and I think if you keep doing it over and over again, and like I said, at least on social we have help, and even otherwise we have a nice internal, very talented team, right? Who's very much on the ball with this. Once you get in the rhythm of a brand, I think that's what I said. This organization has taken the pains to build a team and then deployed it well, and then it's our responsibility to make sure that just carries on and gets better, maybe even each time, and so on, right? So they're very in step with, this is how you start thinking. अरे अभी कुछ और आ रहा है, अभी उसके बाद कुछ और आएगा. You start anticipating it. I know there are teams within teams who actually got content made and ready पहले से. कि अभी आने वाला है. We know exactly what we're going to talk about. Food delivery is going to talk about a certain thing. Instamart's going to talk about something else. Noise.
मैंने भी recently करवा चौथ का content देखा था.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff is almost, you know now your calendar. Equally, you can anticipate certain asks, so you can have stuff ready and thought of. But equally, I think it's rhythm more than anything else. It's rhythm of understanding your brand, knowing your consumers, keep talking to them, right? All of us, I think, just devour content and just try and understand what people are doing, how they're thinking, everything, just food, culture, makeup, why someone would wear something. Just really get under the skin of people so we can respond to them well and hopefully quick enough. But it's a good team. It's a it's a well put together team. I think that's the answer to your question. This is how we do it. I think we also set people free to do what they do well and not get in the way of stuff that old people like me don't understand.
So sometimes you said कि mistakes होती हैं, we'll improve next time.
Sure.
But sometimes mistakes also cost business.
Of course.
And there have been moments where I, as an outsider, do see what brands are doing. For example, a couple was caught on camera during the Coldplay thing.
Sure.
I did not like the way how brands were using it to their benefit, like acting like vultures.
Yeah.
So कभी-कभी पता नहीं चलता है, हम flow में कर जाते हैं चीजें, and then it costs us. Yeah. So because Swiggy is present in every moment, so how do you walk this thin line?
I think, as I said, if you have we do have check-ins with our people, and those check-ins are not like months apart or anything. We do have we're in constant touch with each other. So if we have to react to something, for example, like this, it might just take a message to say, hey, do we want to participate in this? And then, or you have a group in which you're part of, etc. And you might simply just say, hey, you know what? We should be part of everything, but perhaps not everything. Right? It's okay for us to give it a skip. Then there's basic common sense of what you should be part of and what you shouldn't. And there's also understanding, as I said, of do I even have a role here as a brand to play? I can get in on most things. I can force food, for example, or Instamart or whatever into anything, right? But must I? Right? Do I even have to do that? So I think we know who we are. We're always quirky. We're always very much on the edge in terms of the kind of content we like to do, right? You might hate our content, you might love our content, you hopefully won't ignore it, right? But equally, we don't necessarily like to stamp on someone when they're down. That's just, I think, one of those things.
There's also a recent trend when a brand makes mistake, तो बाकी brands आके बोलते हैं कि oh, you shouldn't have done it, and they do it on social media. Founders come and say,
Sure.
They do a lot of moment marketing.
Right.
Do you also, does Swiggy also has that voice?
I think again, I feel some of these are almost constructed. But as I said, no, I think we're pretty clear on who we want to be. As I said, we want to be very creator forward. We think like a creator. I think the answer to your questions is that, especially on social, right? Outside of that, in marketing as well, etc., we might be more ad-like or whatever. But I think on a daily basis, our existence is on pieces like social media, on performance marketing, etc., right? And I think we have a very clear vision of who we are as brands, the brands we take care of, right? And they're super quirky. They're super. They can be edgy, they can be like a little nuts, right? But I don't necessarily think tripping on someone else is something that adds value to us. I think we almost are far too focused on ourselves and think about it like a creator, right? A creator will always retain their tone of voice and do what they do and create stuff that they enjoy doing, right? And their audience enjoys. In general, a creator, as opposed to a brand, won't necessarily look around and say, Acha, now do I have to trip on this brand or this person who's down? It just won't fit with their agenda, frankly.
You just mentioned that you think, Swiggy thinks like a creator.
Absolutely.
And I also saw that Swiggy has like 76 lakh subscribers on YouTube and close to 9 lakh followers on Instagram, which is definitely a creator thinking. And I love brands who act like publishers.
Yep.
So what are the guardrails when you produce content, when you think like a creator, and how important is it for brands to think like creator? And is there some, your answer, I wanted to inspire other brands to also behave like creators.
Look, how many brands do you follow? It's a genuine question.
I follow Mondelez ke sare brands. I follow Swiggy, I follow Zomato, Pidilite.
Right. So you counted perhaps about 7 or 8.
I do watch Cred, but I still don't think that Cred apne ad mein bechna kya cha rahe hain.
Got it. On social, I'm assuming you follow 7 or 8 brands also because you're in the business of brands.
Yeah, that's my job.
It's exactly. Same, but I actually don't follow any brands. And a lot of people don't follow brands. People follow friends, and then the algo makes sure it stuffs your feed full of different brands, advertising creators, etc. Right?
When I went on Swiggy's Instagram page, I saw 20 of my friends were following Swiggy on Instagram.
So I think at some point we simply realized that, and it's not me, I'm sure at some point in the journey of Swiggy that we all realized that there's no point trying to be branded over here, right? We know what we need to speak about. In the case of food delivery, we talk about food delivery, of course, or food, or all things food. In the case of Instamart, honestly, the world is your oyster. You can talk about virtually anything because from pencils to fans to air conditioners, everything gets sold on quick commerce today. So you can literally pick on anything to talk about that people need on a day-to-day basis. And just stop thinking of it like a brand saying, hey, buy me. Right? Think of it like, you follow a friend because of the pictures they post or the jokes they crack or what they share with you. You may not even meet them, but they send you something funny and you laugh at them, right? And I think that's the call we took. And a few brands that you might have mentioned take the same call. And that's maybe why you might give them a shot and allow them on your feed. And if they do appear on your feed, even if you don't follow them, you might like what they're doing. For the most part, no one really wants to follow brands, really, normal people, right? And that's what we believe. We're not too deluded about, we're a great brand. Log chal ke aayenge hame ko, matha tekne ke liye yahan pe and all that. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, हमें कुछ नहीं ऐसा लगता. We have a very healthy disregard for this whole thing basis our own experience. So I think thinking like that helps us, and also observing what some great creators are doing. Some regional creators, forget the big names that we take. Some regional creators are absolutely killing it on most social platforms, right? And there's a lot to learn from a guy who's going to a hostel and eating 30 rotis, right? For example, or a little girl who hops around and says, "Believe in yourself," right? So I think they are creating a whole new audience who follow them because they feel real. I think because they're not antiseptic, they're not clean, they don't have beautiful colors, everything's not perfect. They're real people doing real things. They're not even tutored, no one taught them how to do this, right? But whatever they do just feels more real. Even if they're trying to be funny and not being very funny, you're just like, at least this person feels like a real human being and not something that was created by code.
So this is, you're talking about content collaborations, but even on your own platform.
I'm talking about how we think, and as such, how we create, and also the collaborations, of course, that we like doing. You may not want to collaborate, to be honest, with all the famous personalities or the contemporary urban personalities. We'll also collaborate with them, but we really would love to collaborate with or think like a lot of the folks you may not even know about, who are just coming up right now, or shooting stars that live on the periphery of urban social media consumption.
Okay. Also, I mean, that would be stupid of me to even ask you how often do you map data to decide what content, what ad to create. But can you give me an example when you have seen some data, some consumer feedback, and you've changed your way of communicating with them?
I think all the time, number one, we're very candid again to admit where we're behind and where we need to catch up, etc., etc. I think as a brand, at one time, about a year and a half ago, on the food side, for example, we thought we weren't necessarily appealing to a younger audience, right? If you think about the stuff that people spoke about of us, etc., it was more Gulab Jamun Uncle, etc., etc. If you think about it, very wholesome, but is it very young? I'm not sure, right? But it was great for the time it was done. But then I think you evaluate that over time, read the data, see who's following you, who likes you more, who doesn't, etc., right? And then you pivot as needed. I don't think we are the only ones who do it. Everyone does it, right? And we track it just like everyone else does on a regular basis. And we took a conscious call to appeal to a younger audience because, frankly, that's where a lot of our new users are acquired from, right? New users come in, invariably younger, move up the chain, and so on. That's just the story of life, right? And as such, if you see, like you said, see our handles or see our work in whichever medium, you might find a rather young tilt. Even if it's a press ad, you might say, is this press ad a bit meme-like? Yeah, it probably will be, right? It doesn't care that it's a press ad, to be honest. It doesn't take it very seriously. And there's definitely a strategic intent to that, which is completely guided by data, and also perhaps paying off, which also data shows us, and hence we swear by it.
Okay. So Swiggy is a very young focused brand, Gen Z focused brand, right?
Exceedingly so, I would say.
Okay. And in fact, अभी recently एक स्विगी सीईओ ने रोहित कपूर ने एक शो भी किया था, ब्रांडेड कंटेंट था वो मो इंडिया टुडे ग्रुप पे, व्हिच वाज सीक्रेट लाइफ ऑफ टीनेजर्स, इट्स अ पॉडकास्ट. एंड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ अदर इनिशिएटिव्स जहाँ पे स्विगी डू कोलैबोरेट विद content platforms for various Gen Z level kind of shows. So what are the two things that you would say that Swiggy is doing absolutely right to engage with Gen Zs, and two things that you think that brands shouldn't do when they talk to Gen Zs?
I think having a CEO like Rohit Kapoor is a good start. Rohit is more Gen Z than a lot of us, or at least he's very willing to embrace that generation. He himself has a daughter who's very young, and the way he is with her is amazing. It's a lot to learn from that. But in general, yeah, I think just being very focused. I know it sounds very simple and obvious to say. I think we took a very conscious call, and then we didn't just go after that call like in a by the way. We just said हम पूरे घर के बदलेंगे, and at the end of this year or whatever time, we should be able to look back and said, did we do this right or not, and is it helping us in any way or not, right? But we will never be able to say we took half, we did it by half measures, right? So if you go and say, you know what, I go to your handle and it can sometimes almost feel brain rotty. Like, yeah, that's probably correct. We're okay with that. Yeah. And you might say, I might say, this is not for me. And that's probably a great thing. Right? Because in exclusion also lies inclusion. Right? The brand is very wide, it's for many people. The product is even wider. You'll use me for my service, for my logistics, and so on and so forth. But the brand has to talk to a certain audience, and if it starts talking to everyone, it talks to no one. Right? So ours is very, very conscious to go down that way with food. With Instamart, I think it's a little more balanced. And you might find our choices almost schizophrenic sometimes. You might find 𝐤𝐳-𝐤𝐿 balanced on a inflatable dolphin and a cuckoo clock on the other
Shock
side.
value रहती है.
Right? But if you really read into it, he actually appeals to an older audience. He's much older. But what he's doing is perhaps a lot younger. And they might actually be a balance we're striking there with the content we produce or put out there, and our choices over there. Now, if you start thinking about it, why Karishma Kapoor might be doing Sona Kitna Sona Hai, and so on, then you might start to think of, okay, this is mad. But equally, the choices are such that they appeal to a certain generation. You're speaking to households, want to buy household stuff, right? And also, you want to keep acquiring a younger generation. It's such a wide brand, Instamart. And as such, the content is very, perhaps contemporary, fun, mad in a very new way. But equally, our choices of who we're working with may be actually older. So it may not be random, right? But so yeah, that's how we think, and those are the choices we make. As for other brands, I think, yeah, it's probably not the era to be super safe. As I keep saying, there's a place for brilliant basics, and you need to keep doing that. So do we, hopefully. But if you just do that, I think you'll probably struggle to be a brand to reckon with today. And I think a lot of brands who are just rising up out of nowhere are showing us with different methods, but with the same broad principle of owning the attention economy while continuing to do what's right, what's correct, and just having both sides of the brain active, left and right. I think if you ask me, that's probably the most brilliant basic you can do today.
Sometimes I also feel that Gen Zs को communicate करने के लिए brands उनको एक typecast कर देते हैं. मतलब they think कि Gen Z है तो this is the communication that will probably work for them.
I would say yes. I mean, one, you don't have to feature your audience in your communication. Your audience has to like your brand and your communication, and it has to vibe with them, right? As we speak, I think we just put something out less than 24 hours ago, which probably has over 1 million shares as we speak, right? It'll probably be our biggest hit in a year.
Which one?
It will be our Diwali communication for Swiggy.
Something AI-led. No?
It's not AI-led at all. But we also do a lot of crazy AI
I did receive
stuff.
a PR today, that's what I was thinking.
We do a lot of AI stuff as well, which can be pretty crazy. But yeah, my point is, content like that doesn't actually feature our audience. Our audience absolutely goes batshit crazy over it, right? So I think you don't have to feature your audience. You don't have to try and talk like your audience or fake talk like your audience and use terms that you think people use, because you'll just come out as just inauthentic and get dismissed in a second.
तो ये performance versus brand marketing, अब brand building की दुनिया में,
Sure.
How do you prove the ROI brand building brings to your CEO and CFO?
I think our CEOs and CFOs are, we're lucky, extremely smart people who understand that a performance creative and its ROI is going to be very different from a brand creative and its ROI. And both are important in today's world and any era, right? So one is clearly catered to, as I said, lead to conversion in terms of at least a click on it, right? And as such, it will target a certain audience and try to get a response from them immediately. As such, its intent is so different, right? And it absolutely must be done, and it absolutely must be on brand also. That doesn't mean it needs to be terrible or half-assed or tactical, right? It might give you something as a reward for clicking on it or a reason to click on it. That can be tactical. That can be whatever your need at this point, which it has judged by knowing you over time. But equally, a brand creative is working very differently. It's creating awareness, it's creating likability, it's creating trust, it's acquiring you over time. You may or may not interact with it right now. You may come back to the brand having seen this, and it's why it makes it slightly harder to attribute it. But over time, it is something that lowers CAC. Over time, it is something that builds affiliation. Over time, for context, the work we do on social shows up on our brand track and says, this audience that you wanted to talk to is responding to the brand in terms of spontaneous awareness, top of mind awareness, likability. So each has a different role to play. Neither works in isolation. One supplements the other. And oftentimes what we do is use both of them across both and on brand. And it works beautifully when we do that. If I can reach out to you with perf by something that you might have seen, like you said, you saw something floating around somewhere, and then perf also reached out to you with, I'm doubling the impact it can have on you. In this case, you might just have seen it from afar as a brand message saying something that you may like. In this case, in the case of perf, the same thing is coming and saying, hey, you know what? If you click on me, perhaps you'll get a good discount or a deal or a coupon code or whatever. So this whole argument of, perf is anti-brand and brand is anti-perf is just, I don't think it's a nuanced argument, to be honest.
Every time you're saying something, I think that this time I will definitely ask you, but again, I just lose the chain of my thought. How big is the creative team at Swiggy? Because you do so much of content.
I think I think you'll be surprised at how small is the team, to be honest.
मुझे लगा एक agency होएगी अंदर.
There are, of course, people that we need, but I think, yeah, I've had a lot more people in an agency doing a lot less work, let's just say that. But I think it's also because, an agency structure is very different. You try and structure a team and try and maximize it by making it do, work on many different brands and say that justifies the cost of that team, perhaps, right? But that also ends up distributing that team and its attention across various projects, brands, etc. Whereas, and it may be actually not as efficient as having a smaller group of people and a good group of people who are very focused on one thing and one brand. So if you think about it, if you're working on building one organization here as you are, it's a very focused endeavor, right? It's not very scattered. So you can work with a core small team and you can actually build it better. And I think that's true for most things, right? So we are decently staffed. I don't think we have enough people ever. Not that we complain, because we managed to do it because of focus. That's what I'd say.
Okay, so if a person has to join Swiggy's brand team, तो उसके अंदर क्या 3-4 important traits होनी चाहिए?
I think they should be unabashedly themselves. फटनी नहीं चाहिए किसी चीज से. They should know that they are respected for speaking their mind, right? बिना डर के. They should know that they are respected for being who they are, right? And they should get people, right? Hopefully they also do have some great work, etc., etc. But this is what I look for. Do I like you? Do you like me? Can we talk like we are talking right now, right? Because if that's a problem, then how do you work, right? And you just get people. And do you talk does not mean are you expressive? Do you talk a lot? क्या तुम बहुत बातूनी हो? No, none of that. Some of my best people are actually not people who say much, right? But they're some of the funniest people I know because they're completely straight-faced humor with their humor, right? So I think it's a certain character trait, perhaps, that we feel will kind of get along. And then, as I said, probably most important is, do they just read people? Do they read the room? Do they understand what's going on in our world, in our society? Can they give you some interesting answers or have a nice conversation just about life, people, and what's going on? I
think compassion भी एक trait जरूर देखनी चाहिए लोगों को always.
Again, we try and find, as I said, just nice people to work with, and that's why I said just being able to talk to each other is important.
So Mayur, मैंने ना आपसे बहुत सवाल किया है, asked you a lot of things, and we can continue talking.
Sure.
But again, this is a very busy period for you, and I won't take much time of yours more. However, there's one rapid fire round left. But is there something specifically that you want to tell our audience, something that's in your head and you want to just put it out?
I think we all, when we see work, when we see life, when we see cinema, when we see people, we either like what we see, we react to it without thinking about it. Either you like the shirt I'm wearing or not. But tomorrow, if I sit and ask you, hey, do you know what fabric it was? You know that was what color it was, etc., etc. Then you start getting analytical about it. But when you first saw it, whether you hated it or liked it, you don't analyze it, right? I think we get asked almost too many questions, and that makes us give very guarded answers, and it stops us from really understanding the human condition. And I use that word far too often. I know it can be very repetitive. But I think if we just let ourselves be guided by why we liked something without thinking as much about it or dissecting it, we'll also find the right answers to why someone else will like what we do. Whether it is in creating a product, content, wearing what we want, saying what we want, etc., etc. And if we just understand in all of this, perhaps that being ourselves is really important, I think that would be great. I have a daughter. I would love for her to just be herself as much as she possibly can and not really give a shit about what a lot of people think. But equally be able to look at people and say, I understand you. And, I have empathy for you. I think if you're able to have this yin yang almost, being very focused on yourself, but equally being very, very good with people, I think that's a great combination to have.
That's a beautiful learning that you've given to our
I hope
audience.
so.
Okay, तो अब थोड़ा ढीले होते हैं, loosen up करते हैं, and this comes the last set of
Sure.
podcasts, which is this rapid fire. Data or gut on a tight call?
Gut guided by data, but if data is not available, then gut, because we have the experience to know data from the past.
Creator collab or a celeb cameo?
Create a collab.
One word that defines Instamart today.
Pat shit crazy with nostalgic sympathy rolled in.
One word that defines Swiggy today.
I don't understand it, and that's a great thing because I'm too old to understand it.
A buzzword you would retire forever.
A buzzword I would retire forever. I don't know, man. Retire forever, huh?
कोई कैसी चीज़ जो आपको annoying लगती है and बहुत यूज होती है?
A buzzword I would retire forever. Commenting for better reach. CBFR.
The ad you wish you had made.
Anything by Liquid Death.
A brand you admire outside of food and grocery.
A brand I admire outside of food and grocery, right? Sorry, give me a second. I don't know, man. There's so many brands. I'm a victim. Okay, I'll just talk about a brand I'm wearing. I don't care. It's fine. I like Lululemon because they make a pant called ABC, which is called the Anti-Ball Crusher pant. It is called exactly that. I didn't make it up. It's a great product.
It does make me think.
Anyone in this studio will be able to tell you.
Okay. I'll definitely check it out
Please
after
do.
this. The quickest yes you ever gave to an idea.
Anything my social team comes to with gets them a quicker yes than they're even used to. They think there are many of me. That's how quick a response they get from me.
Okay. The fastest way to kill a good idea.
Think about it far too long, dissect it far too much, being scared of it far too much. If you're scared of it, it's a good thing. Please be scared of it. That's what's going to travel.
One thing young marketers should stop doing today.
Looking at what other young marketers are doing. Look at life. There's so much more.
LinkedIn पे जो echo chambers हैं.
Get the hell out of it.
When I go to LinkedIn, it's a FOMO for me. मुझे तो वहाँ पे देख के लगता है मैं क्या कर रही हूँ अपनी जिंदगी में. Everybody is just doing so good.
Everyone is trying to game the platform, but the platform loves to be gamed because that's what makes people active over there.
Fill in the blank. A great brief always includes
Simplicity and single-minded purpose.
a great brand voice should feel.
Like a friend.
A creator you would bet on this year.
A creator neither of us knows, but tomorrow will come and have 100 million views on their reels. They'll come out of nowhere. It will not be any of the people we know.
Yeah. What should the audience try on Swiggy tonight?
Gee whiz, they should go to Instamart and order the Noise festive box because Noise is brilliant. And they should go to Swiggy and pick something extremely tikha because it'll go well with Noise's meter.
Okay. So that was a lovely chat with you, Mayur. Thank you for giving your time to us in this busy time of the year.
Cheers.
And I hope you enjoyed this. And
I had fun. I hope people find this half interesting. Thanks for having me.
thank you for coming here.
Cheers.
Thank you.